What's up, my freedom-loving friend? I'm JP Sears. Welcome to my new JP Reacts channel. The purpose of this channel is for you to have fun with me and maybe get angry as we watch videos together and I share my reactions, calling out absurd woke BS, the lies and corruption of tyrants, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters along the way. For me, the ultimate purpose of all of that is for you and I to be a little bit more inspired to unapologetically stand for freedom every single day, because it matters. So let's get at it. Today, I haven't seen this video. This is titled A Heated Exchange Between Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Anthony Fauci. And man, these two, I love every time Rand Paul gets at Dr. Fauci. It's like if you see all the classical clashes of good versus evil, this goes with them. I mean, you have like Superman and Lex Luthor, you have Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, you have God and Satan, and then you have Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci. Somehow, Dr. Fauci manages to live with himself. Oh, I think that's admirable. So I have no idea what they're actually saying in this video. It's from a recent hearing. This was uploaded June 16th, so a couple weeks ago. Let's take a look.
Dr. Fauci, the government recommends everybody take a booster over age 5. Are you aware of any studies that show reduction in hospitalization or death for children who take a booster?
Right now, there's not enough data that has been accumulated, Senator Paul,
Sounds like a no.
to indicate that that's the case. I believe that the recommendation that was made was based on the assumption that if you look at the morbidity and mortality of children within each of the age groups, 0 to 5, 5 to 11.
Right. So there are no studies, and Americans should all know this. There are no studies on children showing a reduction in hospitalization or death with taking a booster. The only studies that were permitted, the only studies that were presented were antibody studies. So they say if we give you a booster, you make antibodies. Now, a lot of scientists would question whether or not that's proof of efficacy of a vaccine. If I give you 10, or if I give a patient 10 mRNA vaccines and they make protein each time, or they make antibody each time, is that proof that we should give 10 boosters, Dr. Fauci?
No, I think that is somewhat of an absurd exaggeration.
I think Fauci's existence is somewhat of an absurd exaggeration, but let's go on.
That is the proof that you use. Your committees use that. That's the only proof you have.
He calls his own proof an absurd exaggeration. God bless Dr. Fauci. Lord knows he has no God within him.
Have to tell children to take a booster is that they make antibodies. So it's not an absurdity. You're already at like 5 boosters for people. You've had, 2 or 3 boosters. It's like, where is the proof? Now, I think there is probably some indication for older folks that have some risk factors. For younger folks, there's not. But here's the other thing. There are some risk factors for the vaccine. So the risk of myocarditis with a second dose for adolescent boys 12 to 24 is about 80 in a million. This is both from the CDC and from the Israeli study. It's also in the VAERS study, remarkably similar for boys, much higher from boys than girls and much higher than the background. The background's about 2 per million. So there is risk and there are risks. And you're telling everybody in America just blindly go out there because we made antibodies. So it is not an absurd corollary to say if you have 10. In fact, you probably make antibodies if you get 100 boosters. All right? That's not science, that's conjecture, and we should not be making public policy on it.
I haven't seen this video, but with good points that, dare I say, refute Dr. Fauci's evil, the only comeback he has, and this is his pattern, is now's the point where he'll get angry at Dr. Rand Paul and in one way or another tell him he's confused, you don't understand, something baseless. I haven't seen this video, but Dr. Fauci's pattern is like, now is when he needs to run that page out of his stupid playbook. Let's find out.
So, Senator Paul, if I might respond to that, we just heard in his opening statement, Ranking Member Burr talk about his staff who went to Israel. And if you look at the data from Israel, the boosts, both the third shot boost and the fourth shot boost, was associated with a clear-cut clinical effect.
So I was wrong. He's not getting angry. But it's amazing. It's talking about like a drug. We'll leave it nameless here, but it's so effective, you need to get it 12 freaking times. It's great.
Mostly in elderly people, but also as they gathered more data, even in people in the 40s and the 50s. So there is clinical data.
But not in children.
Well,
see,
again,
here's the thing is you're not willing to be honest with the American people. So, for example, 75% of kids have had the disease. Why is the CDC not including this in the data? You can ask the question. You can do laboratory tests to find out who's had it and who hasn't had the disease. What is the incidence of hospitalization and death for children who've been infected with COVID, subsequently going to the hospital or dying? What is the possibility if your kid has had COVID, which is 75% of the country's had COVID, what is the chance that my child's going to the hospital or dying?
It's a good question.
if you look at the number of deaths in pediatrics, Senator, you can see that there are more deaths
Of
in
people who have had
pediatrics.
it, of people who have had the
Pediatric-
disease.
Senator, we also know from other studies.
That's like, well, good point, Senator. I'm going to now fumble my words in an effort to say something else to misdirect everybody's attention. Let's hear more, Dr. Fauci.
That the optimal degree of protection when you get infection is to get vaccinated after infection. And in fact, showing reinfection in the era of Omicron and the sublineages, that vaccination.
But you can't answer the question I asked. The question I ask is how many kids are dying and how many kids are going to the hospital who've already had COVID? The answer may be zero, but you're not even giving us the data because you have so much wanted to protect everybody from all the data because we're not smart enough to look at the data. When you released data earlier, when the CDC released the data, they left out the category of 18 to 49 on whether or not there was a health benefit for adults 18 to 49. Why was it left out? When critics finally complained, it was finally included because there was no health benefit from taking a booster between the 18 to 49 and the CDC study. Another question for
Fauci's just like, hey, did my check clear? Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the kickback. Yeah, we'll keep it quiet. I will now be intelligent enough to know how to not answer any question I'm asked. Go on, Dr. Rand Paul, who, by the way, is an actual doctor, not like the pretend doctor he's talking to.
For you, the NIH continues to refuse to voluntarily divulge the names of scientists who receive royalties and from which companies. Over the period of time from 2010 to 2016, 27,000 royalty payments were paid to 1,800 NIH employees.
Holy shit. 27,000 royalty payments were paid to 1,500 NIH employees from drug companies. Let me just rewind that 7 seconds.
27,000 royalty payments were paid to 1,800 NIH employees. We know that,
NIH.
not because you told us, but because we forced you to tell us through the Freedom of Information Act. Over 109.
Holy Lord. I'm somehow not surprised, but I did not know that. Dear God.
Tell us through the Freedom of Information Act. Over $193 million was given to these 1,800 employees. Can you tell me that you...
So $193 million given to 1,800 NIH employees. Gonna do a little math. This math session is brought to you by Pfizer. 193 million divided by 1,800. Dude, that's $107,222 on average that each of those 1,800 NIH employees received. Did he say kickbacks or royalties? We're going to rewind again. This is
1,000 royalty payments were made to 1,800 NIH employees. We know that,
worse than a
not
kickback.
because you told us, but because we forced you to tell us through the Freedom of Information Act. Over $193 million was given to these 1,800 employees. Can you tell me that you have not received a royalty from any entity that you ever oversaw the distribution of money in research grants?
Well, first of all, let's talk about royalty.
That's the question.
That's not a. You can say yes or no, Fauci. Just you're not answering the question.
No, that's the question. Have you ever
no,
overseen, have
Senator,
you ever received a
you're
royalty
playing-
payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know? Why don't you reveal
let you-
how much you've gotten and from what entities? The NIH
Okay,
refuses. Look,
Senator-
we ask them. The NIH, we ask them whether or not, who got it and how much. They refuse to
Right.
tell us. They sent it redacted. Here's what I want to know. It's not just about you. Everybody on the vaccine committee, have any of them ever received money from the people who make vaccines? Can you tell me that? Can you tell me if anybody on the vaccine approval committees ever received any money from people who make the vaccines?
Soundbite number one, are you going to let me answer a question? Okay,
Fauci's
so let me give you
defensive
some
now.
information. First of all, according to the regulations, people who receive royalties are not required to divulge them even on their financial statement.
I think that's his way of saying, yeah, I've received some royalties, Senator Paul, and they're substantial.
According to the Bayh-Dole Act. So let me give you some example. From 2015 to 2020, the only royalties I have was my lab and I made a monoclonal antibody for use in vitro reagent that had nothing to do in patients.
Dude, so the only royalties that he's sharing, that he's talking about, like 18 through 2020, is before that was released.
And during that period of time, my royalties range from $21 a year to $700 a year, and the average per year was $191.46.
It's all
Get that,
redacted, and you can't get any information on the 1,800
Senator Paul,
scientists.
your time is
So
long.
we want to know whether
Senator
or not
Paul.
people got money from the people who made the manufacturing.
Senator Paul, your
vaccine.
time is long over expired. I gave you an additional 2.5 minutes. The witness has responded.
Dude, what do you think Fauci's heart rate is right now? Like, I mean, he's like 112 years old, so I don't know like what the max heart rate is for a 112-year-old, but it's probably like 97% max heart rate. He's just palm sweating. He's like, damn it, like, they're onto us, guys. They're like, hey, just act like you don't know anything. Hey, 2018, 2020, like I received like $17 in royalties, and that was for something. Dude, how terrifying would it be if you're the good doctor, you know this immense amount of crimes against humanity that you've committed. You know, it's thinly covered. Everybody can see it. You're being grilled by a freedom-oriented, living in integrity, truth-fighting, or truth-crusading senator. You see him seeing you and everything you've done, and all you have is this thin level of denialism to try to stay intact. I mean, I think that'd be stressful. I hope it is. I hope hope Fauci suffers on a daily basis. I don't like the guy. Well, that's the video. I love a good Rand Paul, Anthony Fauci debate, and I will say I am genuinely shocked by some of what Rand Paul said. $193 million went to 1,800 NIH employees for royalties. That was over $107,000 each, I think was the number. That is just absolutely absurd. I love this video. And I love you watching this video with me. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it with me. And please subscribe to my channel. We're going to be posting videos here regularly so we can watch more videos together, and I'm going to react, call out the absurdities of woke BS, the lies and corruption of tyrants as we got to do here. And of course, I want to highlight the awesome work of other freedom fighters, and tip of the hat to Senator Rand Paul here. I just so appreciate the guy calling Fauci out for his, well, can we call it crimes against humanity? Thank you, my friend. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I would deeply appreciate it. I'm looking to build this channel because I'm passionate about getting the word out, so about calling out lies, corruption, woke BS, so that ultimately you and I and other people can be inspired to unapologetically stand for freedom a little bit more each and every day.